All right, welcome to part two of the thing I've been doing on the New Age movement. What I'm going to be doing here in a minute is sharing my screen, and I'm just going to take a glance at the last slide I did from the previous presentation, and then continue on with another 12 slides and discuss the issue of the New Age movement. I hope you enjoy it. So let me just get right to it, and I think that is it working. I believe it is. Yes, it is. Good. All right, so this is how it ended on the first video I did. So let's get on. Let's move on to continuation. So, what are some of the beliefs of the New Age movement? Now, this really is important for people to know, because the New Age movement is making a comeback and it's creeping into the church. It's creeping into society. As Christians, what we're supposed to do is know all kinds of things. We're supposed to be prepared, not just go to a job and hope things get better and let the pastor on Sunday make us feel better. That's not how things are supposed to be. We're supposed to have knowledge. We're supposed to be able to witness, to disciple, to do apologetics in varying levels. You know, not everybody can do everything, of course. So you should be informed. Now, what the New Age is teaching is that God is impersonal. Now, they teach pantheism, that God and the universe are one and the same thing. Now, this is really important because you got to understand something. If the universe is God and God is the universe, but God is impersonal, it means there is no personal revelation from God, because there could be none. But it would also mean that since we are part of the universe, then we are also divine. But since God is not personal and we are divine and we're God, the God consciousness and quality is in us, so we can create our own reality. We can create our own beliefs because we're divine. This is the problem with pantheism and how it's working and manifesting in the New Age movement. And of course, it's creeping into the Christian church, and one of the forms it is in positive confession, that you create your own reality by speaking, because we have words of power. So this is a concept found in the New Age movement. Nevertheless, worship of creation is permitted, obviously, because it's divine. And since we're part of the universe, as I said, we are also divine. Truth is relative because it's found through personal experience. This is really important. If truth were absolute, the New Age could not be true. And here's the thing about the New Age: you got to understand that there is no set thing of rules or one particular church or a catechism that makes up the New Age movement. That's not how that works. Uh, so truth is by personal experience. Now, if you have five New Agers in one location, they may or may not share certain personal ideas and beliefs. But then if they contradict each other, that's okay, because it's up to you in your relativistic beliefs and your experiences to determine what is true, and it's okay for people to contradict each other. That's perfectly acceptable in the New Age. Of course, it doesn't work in real life, but this is how they do this in the New Age. Moral truths are also relative to the person, and therefore Christianity is rejected for its absolute truth and absolute moral claims. Christianity cannot be tolerated. And one of the things you're going to find is that in the New Age movement, we'll get into this a little bit more, is the idea of attaining higher knowledge, gaining a better, superior knowledge from the ascended masters. So Christians are perceived as those with lower levels of knowledge. They're myopic, they're narrow-minded, they're judgmental, and they're bigots anyway. And so they, however, the New Agers, have higher levels of understanding. They're far more loving, far more tolerant. So they look down their noses at Christians. They also affirm reincarnation. We'll get into that a little bit more. And uniting all religions into one. Now, this is going to get into the issue of something at the end of the slides here. And future harmony of all thought and religions is something they want, which is a harmonization of religion, social, and political movements. This is what they're actually hoping for. Here's some more things that are important. The Christ consciousness is within all people. So Jesus was just a good manifestation of the Christ consciousness. Spiritual and biological evolution is something that is occurring, and we're all moving towards godhood. People are basically good. Interrelatedness of all humanity and nature is a reality. That's something that they teach. Because if the universe is divine and the divinity is the universe but impersonal, and we're all part of that, then there's an interrelatedness of all humans, all people, and nature itself. All you need to know is found within yourself. You just got to find ways to find the knowledge. And there's different ways that they'll do that. We'll get into that. There's a hope for a coming one world leader, manifestation of the truth, or the manifestation of the Christ, called Lord Maitreya. And this is important. We'll get to this also in a few slides. There are vibrational energies with which to harmonize. Vibrational energies. They can do that through crystals, meditation, being in certain locations. Believe in holistic health, and oops, let me get back to that. Believe in holistic health. Sorry about that. And that's a good thing. Holistic health, the mind, body, soul. That's fine, but the way they do it is in a New Age manner, and that's not good. And of course, as I've said, a coming New World Order. All right, so let's compare truth in New Age and truth in Christianity. Truth is subjective, derived by desires and personal experiences, and is found inward. But in Christianity, truth is objective, derived in God's being, and found outward. So truth is that which corresponds to actuality, reality, logic, and of course with the character of God. And the only way for any of us to know truth is if the infinite being, God, reveals something to us. Because he knows all things, he can tell us what is true. But if truth is subjective, then you really can't know if it's true. It's just a feeling, and that's a problem with subjectivity. Reality is consciousness based. So the basis of reality is your mind understanding, how you view and believe reality to be. And in Christianity, reality is God is the basis of reality. He's a necessary precondition for intelligibility, the necessary precondition for the existence of the universe. And it is something that is different than him. He is the creator of the universe, not the universe and he are one and the same thing. And in the New Age, God is impersonal, a life force, the same as the universe. And in Christianity, God is personal, involved, the creator of the universe. Jesus is a Christ manifestation, one of many ascended masters in the New Age. And what they'll do very often is claim Jesus approved of whatever particular New Age philosophy that's coming out, whatever particular book is coming out. They'll go into the Bible and quote Jesus, ripping verses out of context. They'll mix it with Hinduism, Buddhism, or whatever else it might be, and try and get Jesus to fit what they want. So the Christ consciousness, and Jesus was just a very good manifestation of the Christ consciousness, which indwells all of us. And of course, in the Bible, Jesus is the only Christ, the divine one and the human one, hypostatic union, two natures in one person. In the New Age, man is divine by nature and basically good, but in Christianity, man is fallen and he's not divine by nature. In the New Age, salvation is attained through knowledge. We'll get into more about that a little bit later. And in Christianity, it's in Jesus' atonement. We got to define what salvation is in the New Age. We will in a little bit. And the afterlife in the New Age is spiritual progression to attain enlightenment, which leads to true salvation. And it has to do with reincarnation and stuff. And in Christianity, salvation is from the righteous judgment of God and delivering us from hell and going to heaven. And this is what we have for the afterlife. All right. Now, there is no organizational structure inside the New Age movement. You won't find anything like that. You'll find a conglomeration of different thought processes, different ideas, as long as you hold to the basic principles of an impersonal God. You can worship whatever you want. You're basically divine. Knowledge is relative. Morals are relative. Absolutes don't exist. And Christianity is not the only way. And then that's basically it, along with some practices. We'll get into that too. But in Christianity, we have churches with pastors and elders, and in leaders, there's no real official leaders, but there are those in the New Age who attain certain notoriety and become kind of a celebrity leader kind of a situation. That does happen. And in Christianity, Jesus, the apostles are the leaders. And then we could say pastors and elders too, but that's not the ultimate authority and stuff. Anyway, so the texts, the New Age, if you ever get a chance to go into a New Age bookstore, yeah, go ahead and do that. You can even go to like Barnes and Noble, and you'll find a New Age section, and the titles. It's just amazing to see some of the titles. Seriously, some of the things that are going on now. Um, because my life is a little tumultuous now, and um, everything's in the garage. We're getting ready to move, and we plans postponed and stuff. But you know how things are in life. I have a whole New Age section, and books are packed. And I also have a New Age notebook of stuff that I've collected at New Age conventions. And I three-hole punched it, put it in. And what I would often do when the New Age was prominent uh, in the 80s and 90s is I would teach at churches on this stuff. I literally would just have this notebook, and it's like this thick, it's like 3 inches thick, and I would just take my hand, open it up, and start reading. And 9 times out of 10, whatever I would find would be really interesting. Sometimes it wasn't, and I would just go to the next one. But I would just read it. People, this is what it is. And by reading the quotes, you can get the feel for the New Age movement. And sorry, not presenting that here, but my notebook's all packed away. That's just life. So there are lots of texts, lots of varied ideas, contradictory material, but like I said, that's okay. In the Bible, of course, 66 books, the Bible in the Old New Testament. And in the New Age, there's an emphasis on environment and enlightenment. Environment is external, and enlightenment is internal. And that, there's some good stuff in there. You want to take care of the environment. And that's good. But they think the environment and nature is alive as a divine essence that we're to get in tune with, and that's what a problem is, of course. And in Christianity, the emphasis is not on ourselves and our own internal enlightenment, but in the glory of God. You can check out Isaiah 43:7 on that. Isaiah 43:7. I went quickly on when I said it. And in science, they believe in evolution and quantum mechanics. And the reason they like quantum mechanics is because quantum mechanics has some weird things in it about if you observe something, then it's affected. And so therefore it has to do with the mind seeing, and the mind creates. And see, quantum mechanics shows New Age is true. They rip things out of context. They do some really bad stuff with science. And of course, science reflects the regularities of God's creation. I could talk about science for quite a while because what it is a philosophical approach. But that's another topic. All right, let's get into some more of what we would call the sources of the New Age. And I'm not going to get into too much of this because there's such a blend of so many things: Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, occultism, relativism, and as I just emphasize a little bit of science. And what the New Age does, since it's full of a bunch of people from all different walks of life in different cultures, they borrow from any and all, including Christianity, borrow from any and all religious and even some secular systems in order to assemble a mishmash of theological kind of ideas. And as long as they aren't cross-examined very much, everything's fine. Now, I'll tell you, I have had opportunities to cross-examine New Agers, and they don't react well. So here's a true story. I went to a New Age convention in San Diego when I used to live in San Diego, and went there and oh, excuse me, oh, sorry about that. Hope that's not catchy. And so I would go to these places, and I'd go to different booths, and I did not want to start any arguments. I wasn't there to start any trouble. I was there to gather information. So I went to this one booth, and this woman was there talking about astrology and all these astrology charts and all these things. Now, Astrology has lots of problems with it. There's angle refraction of light coming into the atmosphere. What you see as the star location is not actually it, particularly when it's low on the horizon because of refraction. There's more than 12 zodiacs. There's other things, the ambiguity. Get in. Okay. So I know all this stuff, and this woman, um, she's there at this booth, and I can still remember seeing this astrology chart, and I'm just at a polite distance from the booth, but close, and just watching. And she gets done talking with someone, and she looks around and says, "Anybody have any questions?" And I thought, I'm going to ask a question, and I'm just curious. I said, "Yeah, I have a question." She says, "Yeah." I said, um, "How do you know that astrology works?" And she stopped smiling and said, "Are you a Christian?" Just like that, in a hostile voice. And just by asking how it works, she turned on me. And I said, "Well, what makes you think I'd be a Christian? I just asked how it works." And because I didn't want to say I was, I certainly wasn't saying I wasn't, but I said, "I just wanted to know how it works." And she calmed down and went into something about the stars have a gravitational and energy influence upon us that helps shape our destinies at our birth. And I'm just staring at her. Wow, that is so lame because it was. Sorry, but it is. All right, so what I did was I developed my own 10 commandments of the New Age, and hopefully you'll enjoy these. Um, Thou shalt have many gods, because you can have all the gods you want. You can believe in yourself as being God, whatever God, because God's impersonal, everything's divine, so there's all kinds of gods out there. But they can be personal, not personal, so you can have all kinds of gods. Thou shalt gain knowledge of the divine presence, because it's all around you. Thou shalt worship whichever God you desire. It's up to you. You can pick one you want. Thou shalt recognize one's inner divinity. You can worship yourself. Heck. Oh, man. Thou shalt have many different truths. We've already gone over this a little bit. Thou shalt meditate and tune into the universe. I always like that. I've seen people in conventions and stuff meditating and trying to get in tune with the divine consciousness or get in tune with the universe itself. In tune. I could ask them, what does it mean to be in tune with? Like you have a tuning fork and another tuning fork, and you hit one, and the sound vibration causes the other one to tune it. Is that what you mean? And they'll say, yeah. I say, okay, so I help them out. So, okay, so we have tuning forks, and so does your body become vibrationally consistent with the universe, the vibration of the universe? I'm not sure what that means. Sometimes they say yes, sometimes they say no, sometimes they go into some other direction, and you're just like, well, what was that? But what they really want to get into is the spirit soul gets in tune with the cosmic consciousness. Well, how do you know you're getting in tune with the cosmic consciousness? So at one of the booths, you can imagine this, at the New Age convention, this idea of consciousness balancing and energy balancing. They had a booth, and it was like $15 or $10 for 5 minutes or whatever, and they had you put on some glasses and some earmuffs, some speakers in the ears, for the ears. And so these glasses were dark, but they had lights around the rims. And what happened was you put these on, you paid your money, you sat down, you put these on, and they you had the glasses to put on, and the person working the booth would say, we're going to turn this on, and it's going to alternate light, on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off, on, like this, and in your ears, you're going to hear tunes going, like that, and the lights going off and on and on. And so you're supposed to sit there for 5 to 10 minutes, And what'll happen, they say, is that you will feel a rush, a kind of an energy realignment balancing occurring between the left and right brain hemispheres. That's one of the things the New Age does, is it makes up words. I could literally, I could do this. If I could get into a New Age convention and I could film this, I could make a mini documentary out of this, where I wouldn't do it, but where I could take all kinds of words like divine, presence, inner, recognize, balance, chakra, energy, frequency, harmonization, pantheism, crystal, love, shape shift, I could make anything I want, coexistence, um, cosmic, and just make up a bunch of words. I could literally put them into a table, a barrel, or something like that, and I could just reach in and pick out one, and pick out another one, and go, here's our topic for the first class. And then pick out another two. Here's a topic for the second class, and here's a topic for this. Just put them together, and then what you got to do, whatever it might be, cosmic reincarnation, okay, astrological energy tuning, doesn't matter, astrological energy tuning. You just make up a bunch of stuff. And because things are so ambiguous and things mean whatever you want them to mean, people find meaning in them the same way they do with astrology. Today will be an interesting day, and something happens. It was an interesting day today. See, it was right. And so people look for meaning, and they're so open to stuff that they will believe anything. I'm going to tell you about something else that happened at the convention I saw. Okay, let's get on. Number 7, thou shalt speak words of love. You got to do that. You got to speak words of love. And thou shalt respect life. Thou shalt trust the inner light. That means the wisdom and truth and the innerness that is in divine, with the divine consciousness. It's in harmony with it. That's what that inner light is. It teaches you things. You got to explore your inner light. In other words, trust your heart. What does Jeremiah 17:9 say? The heart's desperately wicked and deceitful. No man can trust it. And thou shalt seek higher knowledge. And we'll get into that a little bit too. All right, let's move on. Practices of the New Age. Now, astrology, to learn about oneself and the future. Now, I could go into more depth on each one of these, but I'm just giving you an overview of what the New Age is. Crystal gazing, to harmonize with universal frequencies. Crystal gazing, either to look into crystals, like a crystal ball, and or taking crystals and touching to various parts of your body, your forehead and things like that, to get in tune, because crystals have the ability to balance energies and tune things. Channeling, we'll talk about this. Now, to contact and receive wisdom from the dead. At a New Age convention, went to more than one, I think it was 2 or 3, and I was there for hours and hours. I went into, actually been to a couple, 3 things. At any rate, I went into a room where they were going to have a woman, a lot of women do this stuff, a woman channeling some ancient warrior. And I'm reminded of something. I'm going to take a sidestep and tell you something. Back when I was in my early days of learning of Christianity, I went to a church called Melody Land. And it was across the street from Disneyland in Anaheim, California, across the street from Harbor Boulevard. And I used to live in Anaheim and stuff. And so I went there, and they had, the church is no longer there, but they had a service for healings, and a service where you could have hands laid on you, and you would, get slain in the spirit. That's what it was, to get slain in the spirit. So there must have been 5, 6, 7, 800 people in this room. And how many of you want to go down there to the front and be slain in the spirit? If you do, just come on up. Come on up front. People got up and started walking down, maybe 20 people. And I'm going to go. I'm going to go. I don't believe this is going to happen, but I'm going to go. And if God's really there, I'll go. I'll be knocked down. It'll happen. All right. I still remember this. This minister guy would take his hand and put it on someone's forehead, and they would fall back. They had people behind him get ready to catch him. They'd fall. Next one, fall. Next one, fall. And he's coming around this semicircle of people to me. And the person just to my right, I'm never going to forget this. I'm going to kind of imitate him. He was like this. He was like, okay, eyes wide open, brows lifted up, smiled, nodding. And the guy, the pastor, put his hand up in front. Now, here's the guy's forehead, right? He's looking this way, his forehead, and his hand, instead of going like this and going back, like this, and I watched the guy throw himself back. He was so eager to have anything happen that he threw. I saw it. He went and did, and I could see his body movement. I watched. He fell back, and I went, oh boy. And the guy, Patrick comes up to me, hits me in the forehead. I go, I'm standing up, but he hits me again. I'm standing up, and he tries it again. I'm like, one more time, let's go. And he goes on to the next person, and they fall. The same thing. Hey, hey, hey! It falls back, falls back. I'm the only one left standing. Yeah, I wasn't there, to be mean, but if this is from God, I'm going down. I can't stop it. So, the channeling. What I saw was that same expression in a lot of people who were there in that room as this woman went up to the front and then went into this trance, and then her voice changed, body movement changed, body language changed, everything changed, and people are like, oh yes, wow. The same kind of over eagerness and willingness to just believe. I never forget that. Another practice is divination, obtaining information via mediums, pendulums, and this is just a PowerPoint slide. There's so many different ways you can do that. Pendulums, Ouija boards, tarot cards, which is down listed. So divination has a wide variety of things, and divining rods. They do things with weather, believe it or not, looking for things in weather. Anyway, meditation. Now, this is important because in meditation, the goal is to achieve an altered state of consciousness, because in an altered state of consciousness, what you can do is then be open to the inner light, or to the ascended masters, or the spirits that are out there, other ascended masters, or people in past lives, previous lives who've gone on, who can communicate with you. Some people believe in angels, some don't. And of course, this is opening up to people to demonic oppression and stuff. They believe in past life regression, which is learning about past lives. They believe in reincarnation. It's almost a universal concept inside of the New Age movement. And past life therapy, overcoming present problems by dealing with past life experiences. So 3 incarnations ago, a person was a slave and got whipped, and so therefore now they have problems with being in crowds. They'll do whatever it is, and so now you have to overcome these things because it was your past life stuff. Reminds me of the lie detector system that is used in Scientology. The eagerness of the human, of the person, to want to be corrected, taught, and exposed is so pervasive that anyone who would be willing to submit themselves to something like this is automatically susceptible to all kinds of deception. Get into that. Psychic readings, gaining knowledge through extrasensory perception, ESP. Psychic reading, so someone who might have the ability to do a psychic reading on you can sit there and say, well, I'm getting this, I'm getting this, I'm getting this. And did you have a friend named Bob? Yes, I did. Okay. And Bob was he was a nice guy. Well, he kind of was. And he's upset about something, psychic readings. Okay. And sometimes the psychic readings, they can actually get information that no one knew. Why? Because they're demonic things influencing and possessing these people and giving them information. So it makes it look real. Sweat lodges, that's borrowed from Native Americans. You guys should know what that is. And tapping, balancing energy in the body via tapping on it. So when someone taps on me, I get irritated. I don't know, energy balancing going on there. But this is what they'll do. Tarot cards, learning the future through cards, the randomness of cards, and then interpreting what the cards say. Leaving your future is up to cards. Oh man. And yoga, energy balancing and personal universal tuning. Now, I used to be involved in the occult before I was a Christian, and I talk about it every now and then. But I did take yoga for a while. I have no problem with stretching. Stretching is fine. But I do have a problem with some of the things that I actually did. Now that I'm a Christian, I look back on balancing our chakra energy points. And we would put hands on certain points of our body and concentrate and move energy to other parts of our body. And this was Eastern mysticism. And I remember doing that as a young man in my mid-teens, go to a yoga class. I was very flexible. Now, not so much. All right, so let's get into some of the terms that are familiar. Imagine, like I said before, I take like these things here, and I could put them together, or just pick a topic. Ascended masters and reincarnation. I could do chakra with numerology. I could do divination with mindfulness. I could do higher consciousness down below with universalism. I can, the higher consciousness universalist connection. I make a class out of it. Channeling using numerology. I could make it up. People will believe it. And that's why I can't do it, because people would believe it. Anyway, ascended masters, they've gone on before you. Astral projection, I used to try that when I was in the occult. Could never quite do it. I got some interesting stories about that. Won't get into it. Chakras and energy balance place. Christ consciousness, we've already gone into as we have channeling and divination. Dream catchers, people have those dream catcher things. That's an occult thing, believe it or not. Energy healing, I always like that. Got to heal your negative energy. How is energy, which is impersonal, negative? It's negative energy. I got some batteries. I have a D battery and a AAA. Is one of them negative? Is it bad energy? I don't get this, but what they kind of mean by it is that there's a residual effect of some energy force out there that could be good or bad for you personally. Evolutionary godhood. So they try and take science and incorporate it. You can become gods. Global unity, which talked about. Higher consciousness, which I talked about. Gaining knowledge and achieving knowledge about yourself in a better plane than anybody else. Human potential of becoming gods. The inner light, the divinity within you. Mindfulness is being mindful of your surroundings, being mindful of your energy, being mindful of your actions, being mindful of your heart, your attitude, and correcting those. And how do you correct them? You can do chakra balancing. You can use pendulums. You can use crystals and things like that. New thought, that's more of a philosophical position inside of some of what's called the mind sciences, the new thought thing. It has to do with the mind science ideology of divinity is influenced and caused by your own divinity and your own desire to create actuality. And it's a new way of thinking about Christ, God, and various things, new thought. Numerology, number patterns, pantheism, the universe and God are one and the same. Psychic energy, have energy to be able to project negative thoughts to someone else and affect them in a deleterious manner. You can help someone out with sending good energy. I've heard people say, I'm sending good energy thoughts to you. It's psychic energy. Reincarnation, spirit guides, very occultic. I'm reminded of Star Trek Voyager, and Chakotay would lead people in finding their spirit guide animals and things like that. Spirit guiding is a way to the occult, and sometimes there have been some Christian churches that have tried various things. You have a spirit guide person helping you find your a better relationship with Jesus, believe it or not. Universalism, basically everybody's going to be saved eventually, and that salvation means, we'll get into that, it means attaining a better reincarnation, basically, and harmonization with the divine principle. And visualization, you are what you visualize yourself to be, and what you want others to perceive you as. And as you visualize, your visualizations can bring in reality. Let's move on. Salvation is achieving a higher consciousness and better reincarnations to achieve the highest possible existence. Now, that's a little ambiguous, and it's on purpose that I wrote that way, because within New Age, sometimes it's an infinite number of reincarnations, a higher and higher level, and some you reach a state of nirvana, and some you reach a blending into the divine consciousness and lose your identity in it. And some don't even believe in reincarnation, but in a continued existence afterwards. But it all has to do with salvation, is achieving the best possible you in your self-awareness. Salvation is not from God's judgment. It's not deliverance from the consequences of sin. It's not found, or excuse me, salvation is found in knowledge, in enlightenment, in experience, in spirit guides. It's found in yoga, meditation, channeling. It comes from within, not from without. Salvation is not from anything bad, really, not in a consequential thing as in a divine judgment, but maybe in a consequential thing as in your own bad choices. And you've got to leave those behind and just move on to a higher level of existence and understanding. And whichever manner you want to do that with is fine. Whether it's yoga or channeling, crystal gazing, whatever it is, doesn't matter. Tarot card readings, psychic readings, doesn't matter, as long as you attain knowledge and enlightenment through your experiences and desires to the place where you receive and achieve personal harmony and complete and total peace and enlightenment about your relationship with the universe and with others, to a point where you can't really learn anymore. There you go. And let me talk a little bit about who Jesus is. In the New Age, he's not the only truth bearer. Jesus is not the only Christ. Jesus is one of many ascended masters, and Jesus was a spiritual teacher in tune with a divine consciousness. So they want Jesus, but they redefine him according to what they want. Now, I mentioned channeling earlier, and it's worth looking into a little bit more, because channeling is something that's big in the New Age movement. And what happens is, not only will they go and see someone like I saw at a New Age convention, but people will try and channel dead relatives in the privacy of their own homes. They'll try various forms of contacting the dead, necromancy, and having them speak through themselves and or other people. So it's a means to contact spiritual advisors, angels, people who live in the past, and ascended masters. And they want this because they want information, and they want to have power, and they want to have healing. And so it receives spiritual wisdom and knowledge about oneself, the universe, and becoming one with all things. Because it's, like I said, it's this salvation issue is not from sinful things, but towards the identification and attainment of the oneness of the universal principle. And it's kind of hard to describe, the attunement, not atonement, but the attuning of your soul with the divine principle that exists everywhere. And I already told you about my experience of seeing channeling there. So let's go one last slide here. Maitreya. They look to someone called Maitreya. Now, most New Agers do, not all do. Maitreya is the coming world leader who will unite the world. He's the Lord of Wisdom, the Master of Masters. He will become incarnated and be a human. In Buddhism, Maitreya is the future Buddha of this world. And Islam is looking for the last imam. And many people are looking for a political and social deliverer. We know what this is. 2 Thessalonians 2, verses 3 and 4, let no one in any way deceive you, for it will not come unless the apostasy comes first, and the man of lawlessness is revealed, the son of destruction, who opposes it and exalts himself above every so-called God or object of worship, so that he takes his seat in the temple of God, displaying himself as being God. The New Age movement ultimately is a self-indulgent, relativistic, occult-laden deception that masquerades as love and peace and truth, which is ultimately in the service of the devil and will be used by him to help usher in the arrival of the Antichrist and the unification of religious systems, political and social systems. So this is what the New Age movement really is about. All right. So I hope this was interesting, and I'll be continuing to do things like this and having teaching sessions and stuff like that. I'm hoping you're enjoying these on Patreon. And so may the Lord bless you. And I thank you very much for supporting me. Thanks. I just got an idea about some stuff, maybe talking about what's going on with CARM and with some other things sometime. It might just do that. Let people know. There's been some interesting stuff. And nevertheless, ministry is what it is. It can be difficult sometimes, but I do appreciate your support and your prayerful support. We certainly need that. And for supporting me on Patreon, it really does help, makes a big difference, and it does. So may the Lord bless you. And I just ask and hope that by God's grace that you will be blessed in this. And I'm just going to keep doing this. And I hope that you enjoy them. May the Lord just bless you, and we'll talk to you later. We'll see you. Bless. Bye.